right, so I just finished the course Superbrain by Kwik. And actually, one of the last bonus videos was about the idea of overcoming procrastination. And it led me to think about the fact that when we do Genius Afternoons with our solopreneurs and small businesses, we meet up with them 2 weeks later, we chat with them a couple months later, and they may or may have not gotten to the rocks that they said they wanted to. And it's making me think about the differences between the kinds of goal setting where you're goal setting for your head and you're goal setting for your heart. Goal setting for your head is that's the smarty goals. But then there's the heart goals. And this is what Kwik came up with. And so the heart goal, or the way you set a heart goal, is you have to make sure that it's healthy, it's enduring, it's alluring, it's relevant, and it's truth. And so I think that's something that we need to start having our solopreneurs and small businesses and nonprofit groups and teams think through when they decide what their rocks are, because they have to have the goal in mind in order to avoid procrastination. So that's another kind of step in overcoming and actually achieving your goals. But there's also the idea of what we do with the micrometrics of breaking it down, because a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, tiny habits kind of thing. And you also have to be kind to yourself and not beat yourself up about it. But if you don't start with knowing what your why is, like we talk about, you make your goals and you make your KPIs, and you have a general goal of increase, decrease something. And then the KPIs make up that formula, and the micrometrics make up the formula of the KPIs, and you roll it back up to create the smarty goals. But that's only helping you with your head. As a solopreneur and small business owner or a nonprofit leader, you also have to be motivated enough with your heart to make the change and to move forward. And so I thought that was critically important with goal setting. Is you're a small business. Who are you trying to prove with these smarty goals? Let's be real. Smarty goals are really like for big things, big stuff. But heart goals, is the goal healthy to increase by a certain percent? Is that healthy? Is that sustainable for you? Is that enduring? Meaning, like, can you continue through it? Is it something that lights you up, or is it something that brings you dread? Is it alluring enough? Like when you have that, target at the end of the day or the end of the thing, is it a reason enough for you to keep going? And then does it align with your values? Meaning, is it relevant to you? Like you might have, hopefully the way our rocks work is because we're asking our clients about what they wish they could have changed, what they wish they could have done better, what they wished happened that didn't happen, what they wished happened that they wish didn't happen that happened. Like all those things, that aligns with what their values are. So that seems to be pretty tied in, with a heart goal. And truth, because it's coming from them. So we've got the R and the T a lot. And the idea of going from goals to KPIs to micrometrics, then back up from micrometrics to KPIs to goals, it's healthy in terms of what they realistically think they can achieve. But how do we help them increase it being more enduring and alluring? So I think we have to we have to get them to sell themselves on the vision. So before we leave them during the Genius Afternoon, we have to get them into the heart goals mentality of making it alluring them and exciting them so much that they do want to change. And also, going back into the happiness project, like 60-70% of people in the world are obligers, meaning that they need some sort of outward accountable force to get them to continue to do things and move change. So how can we help identify if they're an obliger, upholder, or a questioner? And maybe that's another pre-homework, is we make them do that happiness test for free. So we can understand even where we're starting at with where they could make changes if they wanted to or tried to. And those are all the thoughts I have. I've seen you writing some things down. What are you feeling and downloading on that?
Okay, I love the idea of heart goals. I mean, even when you think about it symbolically, if you lead with your heart, I mean, there's a lot of value to that. So I like the metaphor and
Mm-hmm.
also the acronym. So I think it was Alan Alda who said procrastination's fun, just wait and see.
Yeah.
And so the question is why in this particular case are people procrastinating and how can we help them get over that bridge and using heart goals versus mind goals? And one thing I'm thinking right off the bat, is there a test that we can find, a psychological test that helps people become more aware of that tendency that, yeah, this is a great initiative.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to do it, but I got to get into my day.
Yeah, I
So,
think it's the Happiness Project Gretchen Rubin quiz is, are you an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or a rebel?
yeah.
And depending on that, it's all about the um where you get your drive from. So like I'm an upholder. If I set internally a goal for myself, I internally will get it done. But the majority of the world are what are called obligers, where they do need that outward accountability. That's where the accountability buddy, comes in. And that's where coaches come in. Like most obligers need coaches just to hold them accountable to be consistent. They need that outward source. And it's not good or bad. No one's better or worse than the other. It's just the way, it's like another modus operandi. I will not change being an upholder. I won't change to another thing. That's why I like the test so much, because like Myers-Briggs changes, Strengths Finders changes,
Mhm.
your the um, there's a lot of other tests that change out there, but like the Colby and the Happiness Project, they don't change.
You know, you bring up a good point, and I got to thinking about it. It's like in school, homework is assigned not for your heart goals or your mind goals, but it's more a matter of forced compliance
Hmm.
so that you're absorbing the information that's relevant.
Hmm.
That's why we have homework. So it's kind of a forced compliance situation. But when we get out into business, even myself, I'll have to take that test, the happiness test, to see where I lie on it. We may have done it. I can't recall my results,
I
but
can't remember either.
when we think about some things in our life, we've had countless discussions like what our Colby test tells us about our energy output.
Hmm.
And it's possible that new initiatives require a person to put so much energy, and we talked about the 80-20 principle on
Hmm.
this, into learning how to do something that they just don't see the payoff in doing it versus the other outcomes they already have and that they can achieve in a given
Hmm.
day. So like something personal, like for me, would be like learning Pro Tools for writing music.
Hmm.
I can do GarageBand. I can work through it. Pro Tools is a lot more sophisticated. It's the industry standard. I love music. I love recording music, but the thought of learning Pro Tools is daunting to me.
Hmm.
It's overwhelming. So even I know that about myself. Like, okay, I can spend that much energy for very little bit of difference between what I already have or versus what I have to do in my day.
Hmm.
And so it's like that energy output, I think, is the key. If we
Hmm.
crack that nut or make
Yeah.
the energy payoff worth it so that you can net less energy
Hmm.
by using this tool, I think that
Yeah.
might be key. But first is, know yourself.
Hmm. There's an effect that Jim Kwik mentioned called the Zeigarnik effect.
Like Zeigarnik.
Zeigarnik. So Zeigarnik. So Dr.
Zeit-
Zeigarnik,
Zeitgeist.
I don't know, but Dr. Zeigarnik, with the Zeigarnik effect, she was at cafes and she started to notice that the servers, that like they could remember what everybody ordered and all the things, and then but as soon as they dropped the order, they lost it. It was gone. They just wiped it out so that they could fill in more space. But the idea is what she translated that to is that when you start something, you open up kind of the loop of the activities.
Mhm.
And the important thing is that people think, oh, well, I always have to start at the beginning. So like with you learning Pro Tools, you'd think, oh, well, the first step is to learn this, this, and this. But you have to look at like, what is it all going to take? What are, like, we always like to say, focus on the next right step. But you also have to think about like, what's going to get me the biggest bang for the buck? So the Pareto's rule is, what 20% activity in this step am I going to get 80% of the results now?
Mhm.
So the Pro Tools is you just get in there and you start fiddling with it. You know, that gets you, you're scared to try it because you feel like you've got to learn it, but you're not going to break it.
Mhm.
So just get in there and say, I'm going to do this blindfolded for a little bit just to fiddle with it. Then when I start reading the instructions or reading the how-tos, I have some context as well. It's like going to business school or getting your MBA right out of college with absolutely no experience in business. It's a little bit of a slog.
It is.
It's tricky, right? Because you don't have all the context for what some things could happen.
Yeah. Well, you remember um, Plato's allegory of the cave. In the cave, people are afraid of the light and they're cowering against the walls as in this scenario because the light is knowledge. Knowledge is painful to acquire.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It takes you energy to acquire. It takes strength to get away from that wall and take that first step into the light.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that allegory, it really does resonate, like to your point about just get in and fiddle it with it. And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe that's the go-to is to show that it's a safe space. It's not going to be a huge energy drain just to take steps 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's helping them find out what that is. Because
Mhm.
once you can start anywhere, as long as you start, you're more likely to complete it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's take our the Pro Tools example and break that down.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would want to do personally is list 3 things that I want as an outcome from Pro Tools.
Yes.
Nothing more complex than
Have the
those 3.
outcome in mind, have the target in mind. Yep.
Be in there, go in there, record a single guitar track, put down a click track so I have a timer, and produce an output, for example. That's just right off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about like learning some of the systems that we're trying to teach, maybe we individualize it and say, what are 3 things that you want to win today?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. In
have
the
them
next
list
2 weeks, what
those
are the 3 things you want to win? And we'll follow up with you. But
things.
it's not
Okay.
even like how just have you move your rocks forward. It's just what are the 3 things you're committing to and why? Let's make your heart goals just even with those bites. And then you can start to model the way of what heart goals really mean and moving yourself forward on it. So
And maybe by doing that, they won't see the rock as being such a big, heavy, daunting thing. Maybe that rock that you've been fearing is really made out of styrofoam. And it's
yeah,
more easily moved once you try to move it.
yeah, yeah.
I
Another thing Jim Kwik said was champion the difference between amateurs and champions is that champions will work through the pain.
work through the light.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So knowledge is pain, pain is knowledge.
Knowledge,
Wait, but
knowledge
with
is
champion,
power,
you're
and power isn't knowledge.
yeah. Well, with a champion, you're learning where your thresholds are that you can
Hmm.
exist and
Hmm.
sustain. Like when I used to run, we always hit those runners barriers where
Hmm.
this sucks. It's a mile, but it's like a mile and 100 yards. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I'm good
Hmm. Hmm.
and go. But
Yeah, and then that is specific to each individual. Is like because also with nonprofits and small businesses and solopreneurs, it's not like the entrepreneurial or corporate mindset. It's not like building an empire. Do
mhm,
you want an empire? Some people, like I know one friend who she just wants to be able to work 20, 30 hours a week and make as much as she did working in the corporate field. And she's gotten there. So does she need to bring on more people and do this and do that and do the other things? No. But I bet you if we went through the scenario of our romp framework with her, she would have rocks. She would still have rocks to make life easier. She would still have the rocks that need to be broken down into, from goals to KPIs to micrometrics, and then built back up to be some heart goals so that she could see some movement and bring herself some more joy in her business. So everybody's got them, but it's just a different perspective of what are you trying to achieve? What is that end goal in sight?
Well, keep in mind that in our world, we do have geologists who just love rocks. And some people just have a rock garden. And I'm speaking metaphorically, of course. But I think the idea is teaching people that the rock isn't as daunting as it might appear.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe perhaps within our masterminds, we link people together that have common interests. And they can have kind of like a study buddy or a shared learning experience with that person. And that might be a way to go about it, so we can just kind of pair up. Maybe they have a little pre-homework, like list your 3 things that you really just love to be able to do. And it could be as simple as writing a letter in Chatty or something like that. And those are my thoughts. I do like the metaphor of the rock in the jar. And
oh yeah, that's going to go places. And this using the rocks as steps and breaking down the rocks into small pieces, and then all the rocks. Like, I just see a lot with that. There's a lot of potential. I can't wait to put all that together.
Also think about it metaphorically. Again, I'm speaking in metaphors today because it's just that kind of day. In a lot of our culture, Western culture, we're taught that a rock is actually not a good thing. I mean, we're breaking rocks. That means you've done some type of crime, and that's what you're doing. You're breaking. Sure. We have the metaphor of Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill every day, and just an never-ending task. And then, of course, Indiana Jones trying to be squished by a rock. But there's a lot of negative connotations, and so making those goals a more positive experience and taking away the negative negative dispositions that people would have, take away the no's in the equation.
And even with Sisyphus, the funny thing is even with Sisyphus, like looking at Simon Sinek's The Infinite Game, that's what life is pushing the rocks. You might as well make it fun and enjoyable, and pick the rocks that will bring you the most joy when you fix them.
Patty, have you ever seen the videos of large dogs pushing rocks? And they're having a blast when they're pushing them around with their nose. They're having a blast. We had a dog that loved to throw rocks in the lake and then spend the afternoon in the lake trying to get the rock out of the lake. That was his epitome of joy. Wow. And if you think, maybe we can find the joy in the rock, and like the puppies have, and then we just need to figure that secret sauce. Yeah. And I think some of that, we might have the tenets of that here today. And I might have said Sisyphus versus Sisyphus. I can't say it now.
Sisyphus.
Yeah, that one.
You didn't say Sisyphus. You said Sisyphus.
Okay, I had it right, but in that moment of doubt.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for this. This is wonderful.
Thank you. That was fun.